The manila envelope was duct-taped to Jake Collins' front door, its edges curling in the damp Seattle air. No postage, no return address. Just his name, Jake, scrawled in thick black marker like a warning carved into stone. His golden retriever, Rusty, wagged his tail, oblivious to the chill creeping up Jake's spine as he peeled the tape away, the adhesive resisting like it knew what was coming. It was a Sunday morning, the kind where the world felt soft and slow. Jake, a 45-year-old architect with a penchant for precision, hadn't even poured his coffee yet. His wife, Emily, was at her sister's in Tacoma, leaving the house quiet except for Rusty's gentle panting. The envelope felt heavy in his hands, not with weight but with intent. He slid his finger under the flap, tearing it open, and a single photograph slipped out, landing face up on the porch. Emily, his wife of 20 years, was wrapped in the arms of a younger man, her smile radiant in the glow of some upscale bar. Her arms were around his neck, his hands low on her back, their lips inches apart. Jake's breath caught, his chest tightening as if someone had punched through his ribs. Tucked behind the photo was a note, handwritten in the same jagged script. This isn't the first time. He stood frozen, the photo trembling in his grip. 20 years, 2 kids, a paid-off mortgage, summers in Oregon, her quirky obsession with overcooked lasagna. It all felt like a house of cards now, teetering on the edge of collapse. Rusty whined, nudging his leg, but Jake couldn't move. The man in the photo looked young, maybe 30, with the kind of polished charm that screamed trouble. Jake didn't recognize him, but the way Emily leaned into him, glowing like she hadn't in years, burned a hole straight through his certainty. His first instinct wasn't to call her or storm out in a rage. Instead, he walked back inside, the photo and note clutched tightly, and made his coffee on autopilot. The mug warmed his hands, but the shaking didn't stop. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the image like it was a puzzle he could solve if he just looked hard enough. Emily came home that evening, her arms full of shopping bags from the outlet mall. "They had a sale," she chirped, dropping the bags on the counter and planting a quick kiss on his cheek. "Missed you today, hon." Her voice was light, carefree, but to Jake, it sounded like a stranger's. He watched her move through the kitchen, humming softly, oblivious to the storm brewing inside him. He didn't confront her, not yet. The photo was still in his jacket pocket, burning like a live coal. He needed more than a snapshot to unravel this. He needed proof. At 11:42 p.m., the silence of the house was shattered by a dull thunk on the porch. No knock, no doorbell, just the sound of something heavy hitting the wood. Jake's pulse spiked. He grabbed a flashlight and eased the door open, Rusty at his heels. A small bubble mailer lay on the doormat, unmarked, its edges slightly crumpled. His hands shook as he brought it inside, locking the door behind him. Emily was upstairs, claiming a headache, her bedroom door closed. At the dining table, he tore the package open. Inside was a USB drive and another note in that same chilling handwriting. "Check the files. Marriott room 309. Thursday nights." Jake didn't hesitate. He plugged the USB into his laptop, his heart pounding as the screen lit up with folders, each labeled by date. He clicked the first one, dated 3 months ago. Grainy surveillance footage loaded, a Marriott lobby timestamped. There was Emily, arm in arm with the man from the photo, laughing as they crossed the polished floor. They stopped at the elevator, her hand brushing his chest, their lips meeting briefly before the doors slid open. The footage cut to a hallway camera. Emily and the man whom the file named Nate Davis, entering room 309. Jake's stomach churned. He opened another folder, then another. Different dates, different outfits, but the same routine: lobby, elevator, room 309. Over and over, like a nightmare on repeat. By 12:17 a.m., Jake's hands were steady, but his mind was a war zone. The final folder held a still image. Emily pulling a suitcase through the Marriott lobby, sunglasses perched on her nose, Nate trailing behind her like a shadow. The timestamp was recent, last Thursday. Jake leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. This wasn't just an affair. It was a double life, meticulously hidden, and someone wanted him to know. He emailed the files to himself, then uploaded them to a cloud account he hadn't touched since their daughter, Sophie, was in middle school. He poured a whiskey, the burn in his throat grounding him. Sleep wasn't an option. Not tonight, maybe not ever again. The next morning, as dawn bled through the kitchen blinds, a sharp knock broke the silence. Jake opened the door to a man in a tailored gray suit, hair slicked back, exuding the kind of confidence that came with billable hours. "Mr. Collins?" the man asked, his tone clipped. "I'm Ryan Clark, your wife's attorney. She's filing for divorce." Jake almost laughed, the absurdity hitting him like a slap. "She sent you to tell me?" he said, his voice flat. Clark shrugged, handing over a thick envelope. "She wants this to be amicable. Equitable division, marital assets, the usual. Let's keep it civil." Jake took the envelope, scanning the first page before cutting Clark off. "Tell Emily if she wants a clean break. She shouldn't have left a trail from the Marriott to my doorstep." Clark's smirk faltered, his eyes narrowing. "She asked me not to engage," he said, but Jake stepped closer. "Next time you show up, I'll have a lawyer too. And mine won't reek of cheap cologne and lies." He shut the door, the click echoing in the quiet house. The heartbreak was gone, replaced by something colder, sharper. Emily hadn't just betrayed him. She tried to erase him. But Jake was done playing the fool. He was awake now, and this was no longer about saving their marriage. It was about winning a war she didn't know she'd started. Jake Collins' world didn't just crack. It shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces, each one cutting deeper than the last. The USB drive's contents played on a loop in his mind. Emily, his wife, laughing with Nate Davis, their silhouettes vanishing into room 309. By Monday morning, the shock had hardened into something else. Resolve, cold and unyielding, like steel forged in betrayal. Jake sat at his home office desk in Seattle, the rain drumming against the window, a fitting soundtrack to his unraveling life. The divorce papers from Emily's lawyer, Ryan Clark, lay unopened on the table, their weight a taunt. He wasn't ready to face her demands, not yet. First, he needed answers. Who was Nate Davis? Who sent the envelope and USB? And why was Emily so confident she could gut their marriage and walk away clean? Jake's architect mind, trained to spot flaws in blueprints, kicked into overdrive. This wasn't just an affair. It was a plan, and he was going to tear it apart. He dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Marcus Wilson, a former vice squad detective turned private investigator, answered on the second ring. "Jake Collins," Marcus said, his gravelly voice tinged with surprise. "Thought you'd gone soft, designing fancy houses." Jake didn't smile. "I need you, Marcus. Something's rotten, and it's not just my marriage." He sent Marcus the photo, the note, and a sample of the Marriott footage, along with Nate Davis's name. "Find out who he is," Jake said. "Where he lives, what he does, who he's scamming. And I need it fast." Marcus whistled low. "Sounds like you're hunting a ghost. Give me 48 hours. While Marcus dug, Jake turned to the USB's files, combing through them like a man possessed. The footage was damning, but it was the metadata that caught his eye: timestamps, camera IDs, even a partial IP address from the upload. Someone had gone to great lengths to deliver this to him, and Jake wanted to know why. He cross-referenced the dates of Emily's hotel visits with their shared calendar. Thursday nights, when she claimed to be at book club or late meetings for her marketing job, lined up perfectly. The lie was so blatant it almost insulted him. But then he found something worse. Bank statements, buried in a subfolder on the USB, showing transfers from their joint account to an unfamiliar name, CJ Morgan Holdings. Thousands of dollars, each transaction just under $10,000. small enough to slip past federal alerts. The transfers bore Emily's digital signature. Jake's hands clenched the mouse. C.J. Morgan, Clara Jane Morgan, Emily's maiden name. She wasn't just cheating. She was siphoning their savings, their kids' college funds, their future. He pulled up their online banking, his fingers trembling as he logged in. The account was lighter by $37,000 over the past year, with no trace of where it went. Emily had covered her tracks well, labeling the transfers as consulting fees or reimbursements. Jake's jaw tightened. This wasn't love. It was theft. Marcus called back that evening, his voice grim. Your boy Nate Davis? Real name's Nathan Elias Gray. Born in Reno, rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. Wire fraud, identity theft, a stint in rehab to dodge jail time. He's a con man, Jake, and a good one. Currently lives in a swanky Belltown condo, paid for by someone else's money. Probably yours. But here's the kicker, he's got no job, no legit income. Just a string of consulting gigs tied to shell companies, one of which is C.J. Morgan Holdings. Jake's blood ran cold. And Emily? He asked. Marcus paused. She's either in on it or the world's worst mark. I'm digging deeper. Got a tail on Davis now. The next day, Jake met Marcus at a dive bar near Pike Place Market, the kind of place where the lighting hid secrets. Marcus slid a folder across the table. Davis is slippery, he said. Uses burner phones, fake IDs. But I got photos, him and Emily at a downtown cafe last week, her handing him an envelope. Could be cash, could be documents. Also found this. He tapped a bank record showing a transfer from C.J. Morgan Holdings to an offshore account in the Caymans, authorized by Emily. That's $15,000. Gone last month. There's more, but it's buried in layers of shell companies. I need time to crack it. Jake flipped through the photos, his stomach twisting. Emily looked different in them, calculated, not smitten. Her smile wasn't the one she used at home. It was sharper, like she was playing a role. Someone's feeding me this intel, Jake said, tapping the USB in his pocket. The envelope, the files, why? Marcus leaned back, sipping his beer. Could be a rival of Davis, someone he screwed over. Or maybe Emily's got enemies. Either way, they're using you to burn them both. Jake nodded, his mind racing. Keep digging. I want everything. Where Davis hides, who he talks to, and what Emily's endgame is. Back home, Jake avoided Emily's calls, letting them go to voicemail. Her messages were cheerful, oblivious. Hey Han, just checking in. Sophie's got a soccer game Saturday. Want to go together? The normalcy of it made his skin crawl. He spent the night digging through their financials, finding more discrepancies. Stocks sold without his knowledge. A credit card in Emily's name with charges to luxury boutiques. She wasn't just funding Nate. She was building a new life, one where Jake didn't exist. On Wednesday, Marcus sent a text. Check your email. Big fish. Jake opened the attachment. A surveillance photo of Nate Davis meeting a man in a suit outside a bank. The man's face was familiar. Ryan Clark, Emily's lawyer. They were shaking hands, Clark passing Nate a flash drive. Jake's pulse spiked. The lawyer wasn't just handling her divorce. He was in on the scam, tying the threads of Emily's betrayal together. Jake forwarded the photo to Marcus with one line. Nail them. That night, Jake sat in the dark, Rusty curled at his feet. The house felt like a museum of a life that no longer existed. He opened his laptop and drafted an email to Sarah Lawson, a ruthless divorce attorney he'd met at a networking event years ago. I need you, he wrote, attaching the bank records and Marcus photos. Emily's not just leaving me. She's robbing me blind. Let's make her regret it. He hit send, the click of the mouse like a gun cocking. Emily thought she could outsmart him, but Jake was done being the mark. He was building a case, brick by brick, and when it fell, it would bury her. Jake Collins' heart pounded like a war drum, each beat fueled by a fire he hadn't felt in years. Emily's betrayal wasn't just a knife in his back. It was a blueprint for his destruction, and he was ready to burn it to ash. The Seattle rain had stopped, leaving the city slick and gleaming under a rare afternoon sun. But Jake's mind was a storm, churning with the evidence piling up against his wife and her conman lover, Nate Davis. By Thursday, Jake had a plan, sharp and precise like one of his architectural designs. Sarah Lawson, his attorney, met him at her downtown office, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. Sarah, a 35-year-old legal shark with a reputation for dismantling opponents, didn't mince words. "You've got a goldmine here," she said, flipping through Marcus Wilson's latest report. Bank transfers, hotel footage, and now a photo of Emily's lawyer cozying up to Davis? This isn't just infidelity. It's a conspiracy to defraud you. Jake leaned forward, his voice low. "I want her to feel this, Sarah. Not just in court, but everywhere. She doesn't get to walk away clean." Sarah's lips curved into a predatory smile. "Oh, she won't. But we need to play this smart. One wrong move, and she'll spin you as the villain." Marcus reports were a masterclass in damning detail. The offshore account under C.J. Morgan Holdings had swallowed $52,000 from Jake and Emily's joint savings, with transfers dating back 18 months. Marcus had traced the funds to a Cayman Islands account linked to Nate, who used aliases to funnel money into luxury purchases. A leased Porsche, a Belltown condo, even a private jet rental. Emily's role was clear. She authorized every transaction, masking them as business expenses for her marketing firm. But the real bombshell was Ryan Clark, Emily's lawyer. Marcus' photos showed Clark meeting Nate multiple times, passing documents and flash drives. "Clark's not just her attorney," Marcus had texted. "He's their fixer, keeping the paper trail clean." Jake's jaw clenched. Emily wasn't just cheating. She was orchestrating a heist, and Clark was her getaway driver. Jake and Sarah strategized for hours, building a case as airtight as a vault. Sarah advised holding off on court filings until they had more dirt, but Jake wanted to strike now, to shake Emily's confidence. "Let's start with Clark," he said. "If he's in on it, he'll crack under pressure." Sarah nodded, drafting a letter to Clark demanding full financial disclosure of Emily's assets, including any offshore accounts. "We'll hint we know about his meetings with Davis," she said. "If he's smart, he'll panic. If he's dumb, he'll lie, and we'll bury him." The next morning, Jake called Clark's office, requesting a meeting, alone, no Emily, neutral ground. Clark agreed, suggesting a busy downtown cafe near the Space Needle, the kind of place where conversations drowned in the clatter of espresso machines. Jake arrived early, a manila folder tucked under his arm, his face a mask of calm. Clark showed up 10 minutes late, his suit crisp but his eyes wary, like a man who sensed a trap. "Mr. Collins," he said, sliding into the booth with a forced smile. "Emily wants this divorce to be amicable. The sooner we settle, the better for everyone." Jake didn't respond. He opened the folder and slid a single photo across the table. Clark shaking hands with Nate outside a bank, a flash drive changing hands. Clark's face paled, his throat bobbing as he swallowed hard. "Amicable?" Jake said, his voice ice cold. "That's a funny word for theft." He tapped the photo. "I assume this isn't you handing Davis a grocery list." Clark's eyes darted to the image, then back to Jake. "This is irrelevant to the divorce," he stammered. "Infidelity doesn't affect asset division." Jake slid another document forward, a bank statement showing a $12,000 transfer from C.J. Morgan Holdings to an account tied to Nate, signed by Emily. "But fraud does," Jake said. "And I'm guessing you knew about it when you met Davis. Or are you just bad at your job?" Clark's hands twitched, reaching for his coffee like it could anchor him. "You're making assumptions, Mr. Collins." Jake leaned in, his voice a razor. "Here's what I know. Emily's been draining our accounts to bankroll her conman boyfriend, and you're helping her cover it up. I want full disclosure, every bank record, every password, every offshore account. If I don't get it, this photo goes public, along with the hotel footage and every dime she stole. Clark's composure cracked, sweat beading on his forehead. Going public hurts you too, he said weakly. It burns the estate down. Jake's smile was thin, dangerous. I built that life, Clark. She just redecorated. I don't care if it's ashes by the time I'm done. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Clark flipped through the folder, his fingers trembling as he saw the myriad invoices. The surveillance stills, the notarized statement from a hotel clerk confirming Emily and Nate's weekly bookings under aliases. You didn't think I'd fight back, did you? Jake said, standing. Tell Emily she's not dealing with the man she married. That guy's gone. And tell her I know about the safe deposit box she opened last year in her maiden name. Clark's cup froze mid-sip, his eyes wide. I don't know what you're talking about, he muttered. Jake shrugged. Then you're either clueless or complicit. Either way, you're screwed. Jake walked out, leaving Clark staring at the folder like it was a ticking bomb. In his car, he exhaled, the adrenaline still coursing through him. He texted Marcus. Clark's rattled. Keep tailing Davis. Then he called Sarah, updating her on the meeting. He's scared, Jake said. Good, Sarah replied. Now we tighten the screws. I'm drafting a motion to freeze Emily's accounts. If she's moving money, we'll catch her in the act. Jake nodded, staring out at the city skyline. For the first time in days, he felt in control, like a man holding the reins of a runaway horse. But Emily wasn't done. That evening, Jake's phone buzzed with a notification. A new post on Emily's Instagram, a filtered selfie with tear-streaked cheeks. The caption read, After years of silence, I can't hide anymore. I tried to save our marriage, but Jake chose distance over love. I'm not perfect, but I'm not the monster he's making me out to be. The post was gaining traction, comments flooding in Stay Strong, Queen. Men like that don't deserve you. Jake's blood boiled, but he didn't react. Not yet. Emily was playing the victim, spinning a narrative to shield her lies. But Jake had the truth, and he was about to wield it like a sledgehammer. Emily's Instagram post was a Molotov cocktail, igniting a firestorm of sympathy that spread faster than Jake Collins could have imagined. Her tearful selfie, paired with a caption painting herself as a wounded saint, had racked up thousands of likes, her followers rallying around her like a digital army. But Jake wasn't watching from the sidelines. He was loading his own arsenal, and it was about to blow her carefully crafted facade to pieces. The Seattle sky was a bruised gray, mirroring Jake's mood as he sat in his home office, the glow of his laptop casting shadows across his face. Emily's post had gone viral overnight, hashtags like #JusticeForEmily and #SurvivorQueen trending locally. Friends, neighbors, even their daughter Sophie's soccer coach had chimed in with support. Stay strong, Em, one comment read. He doesn't deserve you, said another. Jake's name was dragged through the mud, painted as a cold, controlling husband who'd driven his wife to desperation. The lies stung, but they also clarified something for Jake. Emily wasn't just hiding her affair. She was rewriting their entire marriage to bury him. Jake's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Wilson, his private investigator. Check your inbox. Davis is slippery, but I've got him. Jake opened the email, his pulse quickening. Marcus had struck gold. Nate Davis, alias Nathan Elias Gray, had a history of conning wealthy women, using charm and fake business ventures to drain their accounts. The offshore account tied to C.J. Morgan Holdings had received $67,000 from Emily over 2 years, funneled through shell companies that Marcus traced to Nate's aliases. But the real gut punch was a new photo. Nate, smirking, boarding a private jet with a suitcase, timestamped 2 days ago. A bank record showed a massive withdrawal from the Cayman account. $50,000, gone in a single transaction. Nate wasn't just a player in Emily's affair. He was a thief, and he'd bolted with her money. Jake forwarded the email to Sarah Lawson, his attorney, with a single line, "Time to end this." Sarah called within minutes, her voice sharp with excitement. "This is dynamite, Jake. Emily's not just complicit. She's been funding a fugitive. We can freeze her accounts and subpoena her financial records. But we need to hit her where it hurts most. Her image." Jake leaned back, the chair creaking. "She's built a castle of lies on social media. Let's tear it down." Sarah's laugh was cold. "Consider it done. But we need to time this perfectly. Let her think she's winning." Jake spent the day gathering ammunition. He compiled the Marriott footage, bank statements, and Marcus photos into a digital dossier, each piece labeled with clinical precision. Joint account transfer, $12,000, CJ Morgan Holdings, March 15, 24. Surveillance still, Marriott Room 309, Emily and Nate Davis, April 2, 24. He didn't add commentary. Truth didn't need embellishment. At 7 p.m., he posted the first strike on his own social media, a single image. Emily and Nate in the Marriott elevator, her hand on his chest, timestamp clear. No caption, just silence. 10 minutes later, he followed with a carousel. Hotel invoices, a bank transfer signed by Emily, and a still of Nate boarding the jet. The labels spoke for themselves. The internet erupted. Comments flooded in, shock replacing sympathy. "Wait, she was cheating and stealing his money?" One user wrote. "This is wild. She lied about everything." Another posted. Emily's supporters faltered, her narrative crumbling under the weight of evidence. By midnight, her Instagram was locked, her post deleted, her Facebook vanished, her TikTok gone dark. Jake's phone buzzed with notifications, but he muted them, focusing on Sophie, their 16-year-old daughter, who'd been staying at a friend's house. He hadn't told her yet, but he knew the truth would reach her soon. The thought of her seeing her mother's betrayal twisted his gut, but he couldn't shield her forever. The next morning, Sarah called with news. "Ryan Clark's panicking. He emailed me at 6 a.m., begging for a private meeting. Says Emily's willing to negotiate alternative terms to avoid court." Jake smirked, pouring his coffee. "She's cornered. Set it up, but no deals. I want her to face this." Sarah agreed, scheduling a meeting at a law firm downtown, all glass and polished neutrality. Jake arrived early, his dossier in a leather binder, Sarah at his side. Emily walked in 10 minutes late, her face pale, sunglasses hiding eyes that hadn't slept. Clark followed, his tie loose, sweat staining his collar. Emily didn't look at Jake, her lips pressed into a thin line. Clark tried to steer the conversation, mumbling about productive solutions, but Jake cut him off. He slid the binder across the table. "This is every transfer Emily made to Nate Davis's offshore account. Every hotel booking, every lie she told. And this," he tapped a photo of Clark with Nate, "is you, helping her cover it up." Clark's face drained of color. Emily finally spoke, her voice brittle. "I didn't know Nate was using me, Jake. I thought he cared." Jake's eyes narrowed. "You thought he cared while you wired him our kid's college fund? While you planned to leave me with nothing?" Emily flinched, her hands trembling. "I made a mistake," she whispered. Jake leaned in, his voice low, steady. "You didn't make a mistake, Emily. You made a choice." Clark jumped in, desperate. "We can settle this quietly. Avoid the press." Jake's smile was cold. "You escalated when you let her paint me as a monster online. Now the world knows the truth." He stood, Sarah gathering her notes. "You've got 48 hours to disclose every account, every cent, or I release the rest." Clark didn't ask what the rest was. His silence said he knew it was bad. Emily stared at the table, her sunglasses slipping to reveal red-rimmed eyes. For a moment, Jake saw the woman he'd loved, the one who'd danced with him at their wedding, who'd cried when Sophie took her first steps. But that woman was gone, replaced by a stranger who'd gambled their life and lost. As Jake walked out, Sarah murmured, "She's done, Jake. The court will eat her alive." He nodded, but his mind was on Sophie. He drove to her friend's house, his heart heavy. Sophie deserved the truth. But how do you tell your daughter her mother tried to erase you? The rain started again, streaking his windshield, as Emily's empire of lies collapsed behind him. Jake Collins stood in the wreckage of his marriage, not as a victor, but as a man who'd clawed his way out of a grave Emily had dug for him. Her empire of lies had crumbled, leaving only silence and the bitter taste of justice. The Seattle skyline loomed outside the courtroom windows, its jagged edges mirroring the finality of what was about to unfold. Courtroom 4B was a sterile box of polished wood and fluorescent light, the air heavy with anticipation. Jake sat beside Sarah Lawson, his attorney, his hands steady despite the storm inside him. Across the aisle, Emily looked like a ghost of herself. Cheeks hollow, charcoal blazer hanging loosely, a silver cross necklace dangling like a prop in her performance of remorse. Ryan Clark, her lawyer, shuffled papers nervously, his earlier bravado replaced by the slumped posture of a man who knew he'd lost. The judge, a woman with gray hair and a gaze that could cut glass, called the session to order. Jake's evidence, meticulously gathered, was about to bury Emily's defense. Sarah rose, her voice clear and unrelenting. "Your Honor, we present evidence of 67 unauthorized transfers totaling $67,000 from the joint account of Mr. and Mrs. Collins to an offshore entity, C.J. Morgan Holdings, controlled by Nathan Elias Gray, alias Nate Davis." She slid a binder onto the bench, its pages a catalog of betrayal. Bank records, Marriott surveillance stills, notarized statements from hotel staff confirming Emily's weekly bookings under aliases. "This flash drive," Sarah continued, placing it beside the binder, "contains video footage of Mrs. Collins and Mr. Davis entering room 309, time-stamped across 18 months. These were not isolated errors, but a deliberate scheme to defraud Mr. Collins." Clark objected, his voice thin. "This is irrelevant to asset division, Your Honor. My client's personal missteps don't negate her rights." Sarah didn't flinch. "It's not about missteps. It's about fraud. Mrs. Collins concealed assets, misrepresented her financial position, and continued transferring funds even after Mr. Collins confronted her. She produced a bank statement. On April 7th, 3 days after learning of her husband's evidence, Mrs. Collins wired $9,800 to Davis's offshore account. This wasn't love. It was larceny. The courtroom stilled, the weight of her words sinking in. The judge's eyes flicked to Emily. "Mrs. Collins, do you dispute this evidence?" Emily's lips parted, her voice barely audible. "I didn't know Nate was. I thought he needed help. I was wrong." Her words crumbled under scrutiny, as flimsy as her social media sob story. Sarah pressed forward. "Your Honor, Exhibit F. A signed admission from Mrs. Collins, omitting the offshore account in her initial disclosure. That's perjury." Clark's hand shot to Emily's shoulder, silencing her, but the damage was done. The judge leaned back, her expression unreadable. "This court finds Mrs. Collins engaged in financial misconduct and concealment. Full restitution is ordered, pending further review." The gavel fell, a dull crack that echoed like a door slamming shut. Emily didn't move, her eyes fixed on the floor, the cross necklace glinting mockingly. Jake felt no triumph, only a hollow calm. Sarah packed her briefcase with surgical precision. "She's finished," she whispered. "The judge will likely award you the house and primary custody of Sophie." Jake nodded, his thoughts on his daughter. Sophie, who'd learned the truth from a friend's screenshot of his posts, hadn't spoken to Emily in days. The betrayal had fractured more than their marriage. It had broken their family. Outside, Clark chased after them, offering a weak handshake. "No hard feelings, right? Just doing my job." Jake ignored him, walking past reporters buzzing in the hallway. Emily didn't follow. She was a shadow now, her lies exposed to the world. But the war wasn't over. 3 days later, Emily resurfaced on a local morning show, her face pale but composed, spinning a new tale. "I was manipulated," she told the camera, voice trembling. "Jake's campaign against me was cruel, calculated. I'm not the villain here." The interviewer nodded sympathetically, oblivious to the court's ruling. Jake watched the clip at home, rusty at his feet, and felt nothing but disgust. She was still playing the victim, even as her world collapsed. He sent the clip to Marcus, who responded instantly. "She's desperate. Check your email." Marcus' final report was a knockout blow. Nate Davis had vanished, his Belltown condo emptied, his phone disconnected. The Cayman account was drained, $67,000 withdrawn days before the ruling, funneled to a new alias, James C. Morgan. The irony wasn't lost on Jake. Even Nate's fake name mocked Emily's maiden identity. Marcus had tracked Nate to a flight to Mexico, but the trail went cold. Emily wasn't just betrayed. She was played, her money and trust stolen by the man she'd risked everything for. Jake called Sarah. "Let's finish it." Within hours, a local news outlet published an exposé, "From Affair to Fraud: How Emily Collins Funded a Conman's Escape." The article, backed by court documents, Marcus photos, and the Marriott footage, spread like wildfire. Social media turned on Emily, her remaining allies silent. Sponsors dropped her marketing firm. Her women's networking group canceled her membership, and Sophie, heartbroken, refused her calls. Jake met his daughter at a coffee shop, her eyes red but resolute. "She lied to us, Dad," Sophie said, gripping her latte. "I can't forgive her yet." Jake hugged her, promising they'd rebuild together. By the weekend, an anonymous envelope arrived at Jake's door. No markings, just a photo inside. Emily on a park bench, alone, hoodie pulled tight, face blotchy with tears. Jake stared at it, not with pity, but with clarity. Emily wasn't evil, just a woman so desperate for validation she'd burned her life to the ground. Nate had used her, but she'd chosen every step. Now, she faced the consequences. No family, no reputation, no safety net. Jake, though, found peace. Not in her ruin, but in his freedom. He tucked the photo away, locked the door, and started sketching a new design for Sophie's bedroom. The past was gone, but the future was his to build.